I
I'm
am
sorry.
Beth Abkis Moore, 19840 Chile Avenue in Empire. I would like to talk about the data centers. This is about making, uh, making sure powerful, demanding, damaging interests are not placed above public welfare. And I've got to say, it must be difficult for you sitting up there, making decisions, knowing that you can't please everyone. At one point, one of you said that we have to go with what some want, but not others. I want to be as non-judgmental as possible. I want to treat you all with dignity and compassion, but I also want to be authentic about what I see in the big picture. How do you feel when the citizens have come up here time and time again? The global elite feel nothing, and some elite are overseeing this data center as it's designed. They want us to fight each other. They usually rise to the top of society because they like power. The elite cannot be trusted. They exhibit the core traits of all psychopaths: superficial charm, grandiosity, and self-importance. They are known for lying, deception, manipulation, and the inability to feel remorse or guilt. These are people pushing us towards data centers everywhere. They have disdain for people who display virtues of empathy, honesty, compassion, and self-sacrifice. They live by the creed of me, me, me. I try to understand people. Do you feel powerful or powerless in your situation? I don't understand why you've heard all the things that your fellow citizens have said, and yet you haven't changed your mind. And I have a lot of questions. Is it about money that someone thinks they will get? Is it something hidden in the non-disclosure? Some empty promise not written down? They want it their way, and we know big business and big corporations have no integrity. They have hurt communities across the country, and behind each corporation lie elite pulling the strings. Are you caught in the middle? Who else is telling you not to help us? Do you value money over human well-being? I am driven to end suffering where I can see it. I can't do everything, but I can do something, and that's why I speak today. I'm here on behalf of the ones who live close to the potential data center site. We all understand the consequences for them. I can't imagine the stress they must be under. Your fellow citizens have told you the facts and the potential problems, and these problems might extend to all of us. We must come together and draw a line to keep the elite from ruining the cohesion we have built in this community. You are putting all of us at risk, and potentially yourselves at risk as well. You still have time to act and make different choices. I've heard about a moratorium as a potential way to at least postpone so you can study more and find out if we do have the infrastructure for these data centers. These are predatory agencies, and I don't know why you can't see that. Stop ruining lives in the soon-to-be future. Since you won't listen to facts, perhaps I can appeal to your moral principles, your conscience. Do any of you go to church? Can you imagine your fellow churchgoers or others in the community when they have consequences of dirty water, higher costs, and a ruined environment? It is difficult to believe that we can't rely on you, our neighbors, to protect us. And for what? Again, do you value profits over human well-being? Are you too proud to admit that you were wrong, that maybe you've been tricked into the situation? Imagine instead what would happen if you do protect us. the appreciation from this community. True despair, and I believe a lot of people here feel that despair, is powerlessness. And resistance, meaningful resistance, is empowerment. It awards self-worth. It confers dignity. Resistance is the only option that allows us to use the word hope.
Ma'am, we're at our 5 minutes. Are you close to the end?
I pray for you.
Thank you.
Mayor, if we could grab the mouse.
Good evening, everyone. Been a while since I've been here. My name is Dave Aiken. I live in Castle Rock Township. I've been a Farmingtonian for 5 generations in my family. Mayors, county commissioners, policemen, everything that we do here tonight. I consider myself to be kind of an owly junior senior citizen these days, so be careful when you give me a pen, a podium, and some passion. This is going to sound quite disjointed because I haven't been to a meeting for a while. At the council, I'm fully involved in everything with the data center pushback. But what I was going to say is I've taken a lot of notes tonight, and there were some beautiful presentations by some of these city staffers, I must say. And I do sense a different climate since I've been in a meeting and there's been some changes. So I appreciate all of that. I'm not looking for any answers. I'm going to bounce around with my notes and things I saw tonight and saw, but and not necessarily push back. One of the earlier speakers, who shall not be named, when he talked about the Second Amendment rights, I'm a gun owner. I was brought up with guns. I got a permit. I love guns. I don't fully go all the way down on the Second Amendment rights, though. And one thing I just wanted to push back on is I don't see any way that the Second Amendment is a God-given right. That's a proclamation by somebody else. It's not up to me to say it's a God-given right or anybody else. And if we're talking about God, I doubt there was guns there. So, whatever. I heard the term values and vision. I didn't hear Team Farmington yet tonight, but I did see an orange tie. Spot zoning, that's what I still think it is. I'd like to see some single issue bills at the legislature, not everything in the big ball of goo. Somebody, either on the council or maybe it was a speaker, said we should have these conversations 10 years ago. Well, of course we should have had these conversations 10 years ago. We should have them 10 months ago, 10 days ago. Now, that's a convenient thing to say, but there is so much noise on the data center issue right now that I don't know how anybody can possibly not be aware of it. And all we're asking is for some common sense guidelines. Can't mention a name, but somebody said tonight that when we were talking about something else, how the state can kind of control or help to control or do something about the water issues. But right here in the meeting I was sitting at, I heard after about a 45-minute presentation by Tract that night that the city took action on allowing Tract to glom onto the city water as a partner. That was a local decision. That wasn't a state decision. And that was a dang poor decision in my mind. You guys have rights and responsibilities. And the responsibility kind of seems to be lacking at times. And then we went into the, am I done?
I think you're still good for a little bit.
My clock's still at 5.
Yeah. 2 minutes.
All right, I'm just going to keep going then. It's not going to be too much more. But I thought it was really interesting when we were talking about the Arbor Day proclamation, because 3 or 4 of the pages I heard read, you could just substitute the word data center for all of these things that are issues that we're so concerned with the trees, except we're not concerned about bulldozing 320 acres. We're not concerned about wrecking the trout pond, the trout stream, the breeding area. We're not worried about taking out a city park that already exists. I mean, we kind of talk out both sides of our mouth, I guess, but and then I haven't been here for a while, but I saw a couple on the recordings lately, but you guys are getting pretty good at throwing roses at employees and guest speakers. Well, you throw the shit at the neighbors and the residents. And I'm sure it's not intentional, but it certainly appears that way. John, no, not supposed to mention a name. The representative from the Dakota County Chamber, I was just wondering if you've been to the actual data center location that we're opposing with the spot zoning in the middle of the 3 neighborhoods and everything else I said. I wish that,
Dave?
I'm almost done.
Okay, thank you.
Elsa, she who made the presentation, who I shall not name, I wish her and Sean, can't say Sean, the detective, they show qualities, traits, character, good listener, beautiful presentations. I almost kind of got the impression you said a little too much tonight for some of these people. I appreciate it, because that's what we need, honesty and transparency. Not shadow decisions driven by billionaires without citizen input. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dave.
I bet you'll start the timer now. Nate, Nate with City of I live in the city of Farmington, so just kind of a few things to mention tonight. So there was a gentleman from the chamber who talked about Virginia, and it's really important to me that we get our facts right. One of the very last things that the previous mayor went on about was these half facts and these half truths, and we're just pulling data out of thin air. So that person who you commended and you talked about, and just what a wonderful thing, that was a half fact. Most of it was half fact, right? Well, Virginia's got the largest center of data centers. He's absolutely right, they do. But how many of them, I'll ask you, how many of them are over 700 megawatts? My guess is none of you know, but there's not one. There's not a campus that exists currently in Virginia that is over 700 megawatts. What type of zoning do those data centers sit on? Those data centers, some of them are grandfathered in. That's no longer as of 2025. Those data centers now sit in industrial zoned land. The entire time that I've been up here, the entire time that I've been talking to you has been about the zoning and land use. It's so important that you got it wrong. Using mixed-use commercial industrial is the wrong zoning for this piece of property, for this data center project. It should have been zoned industrial. By zoning it industrial, then it would have triggered an EIS versus an AUAR. And that is a huge, thank you. That is a huge difference maker. So an EIS looks at the impacts of one singular project, and it is detailed. It says what is going to happen if you put this project in. An AUAR compared 2 different projects. If you recall, the 2 projects compared in the AUAR, one was a residential, which that property had always been zoned for since it came into the city of Farmington, specifically the golf course property. The school property was not zoned yet until you brought it into the city of Farmington. You brought it in directly into to a mixed-use commercial industrial. So, but the other one was zoned for residential. Most of it, yes, there was some commercial that was along County Road 50, but the vast majority of it, and there was a park that was there. So by changing the zoning to mixed-use commercial industrial, you skirted the issue of actually zoning the entire project industrial, which would have automatically triggered an EIS, which then you would have brought facts and actual figures to, the things that the previous mayor was so just adamant about, that we bring facts, we bring figures, we bring actual things. But he didn't call for that. He called for an AUAR that says, well, what are these 2 projects? How do they compare against each other? Not so much exactly how does this one project, which in this case would be a data center, how does that and what does that actually look like? And I'm gonna say this again, and I've said it before. If you are so freaking confident that this project meets the meets the standards for EIS, then require one. And you have that opportunity coming up in May when you renew this project. if it gets renewed, you have that opportunity to go back to the drawing table, to go back to the drawing board. You have that there to then start to require an EIS. And that, because these state agencies that you're relying on so much are simply relying on the AUAR. They're not relying on an impactful EIS study. You guys, it's huge. It's the zoning. It's, I don't know, I forget, it's like, you know, whatever. The zoning side of this is the biggest thing. And again, we want to talk about half-truths. We want to talk about things that are factual. Then I'm curious, that person who came up here and said, oh, these data centers provide so many jobs. On average, they provide 0.5 to 1.2 jobs per kilowatt. And that's not per megawatt, excuse me. And that's after construction. The vast amount of jobs, these thousands of jobs, only occurs during that construction phase. It is not a long-term thousands of jobs. Most of these facilities employ less than 40 people full-time, and a vast majority of that is security. I'm curious, how would you like it if I flew a drone over your home and your backyard in the summer with your kids out there playing? Anyone whose property is up against that buffer, that's what's going to happen. That is the security level. Most of those people who are employed by these data centers are security people because they're so secure and they have to be secure, which I completely understand. But if we're going to talk about facts, we're going to talk about figures, we're going to talk about those things, and I think it's important. I think it's very important that we actually use things. And I'm curious if the gentleman back there, who is he funded by? Is it the electric company that's out to earn over $400 million by selling them electricity? Just curious. Thank you for your time.
My name is Sarah Fry. I live in Executive Estates. For 2 years, members of the Coalition for Responsible Data Center Development, and now in partnership with the Coalition for Responsible Data Center Development Fund, 501c4 and 501c3, respectively, have been bringing you concerns regarding health and well-being. We have mentioned environmental concerns of polluted water and polluted air from gas turbines or generators, have mentioned the trout restocking and trout raising programs, which have been immensely popular with the community, and how the trout could be at serious risk if the water temperatures change from data center water drainage. But quality of life and the legacy of the trout restocking and education programs don't seem to be very important to the council. So I'm bringing up money. Clearly, Farmington City Council and Economic Development believe that there will be an increase of some type of revenue. So I would like to remind you of the report published by Good Jobs First regarding the report released in February 2026 by the state of Georgia. In fiscal year 2025, the sales tax losses felt by local governments were $2.5 billion. This was only sales tax. The actual losses felt statewide exceeded the estimate by 664%, or 6.64 times the estimate. Virginia, we're talking about Virginia today, Virginia also saw a loss of $1.6 billion due to subsidies to data center developers. But if we think that that's far away and not important, let's look at Minnesota. In 2024, the DNR received 22 complaints from well owners in the Elko New Market, Minnesota area, who began to pump black, sooty water from their wells following a 4-week test of the city pumping 1.8 million gallons of water per day out of the aquifer as it began to work with Niagara Bottling Company. In 2024, the Minnesota DNR issued a water appropriation permit, therefore making Elko responsible to remedy the cause of failed wells and blackened water. The city of Farmington has agreed with Tract to provide municipal water for their project. The project estimate was 800 million gallons of water per year. So let's do a little math. 800 million gallons divided by 365 days a year, that's 2.19 million gallons of water per day. More water than what Elko was doing in their test. According to census data, there are 507 households in Castle Rock Township. Is Farmington prepared to pay for costs or legal fees when the wells dry up for those residents? Even if half of the households receive damages of, say, $10,000, which doesn't even begin to bring the cost of replacing a well, you're looking at a cost of $2.5 million. Soon, people will be able to have their AI assistant on their device. They can have their cat videos, they can improve their resumes, all of it on their device. No cloud needed, only software. If we don't need the cloud to improve our lives, then why is the city of Farmington asking its residents to pay our money to improve the lives of billionaires? Thank you.
Hello, council members. My name is Nikita Klochan. Live in Executive Estates. I would like to thank some of the council members for coming out to the Easter event that we've hosted. That was nice to see, the outreach. I didn't get to talk to you guys. That was partially my own doing, I guess. But with that, I'll try not to ramble. I actually try to write something down today. On the topic of data centers, the one word that constantly comes up is it's an emotional issue, and it's polarizing, whatever. I would like to discourage us from simply referring to that issue as emotional. Without the proper context, we must recognize from where that emotion comes from. The facts of the matter is what drives our emotion. The fact that special interest groups drive this mindless development. The fact that despite citizens' protests, the city has chosen to proceed with an unpopular project. The fact that utility bills will probably go up. The fact that my property value will probably go down and that my property taxes will remain the same or keep going up. So, pardon me, but coloring this as just an emotional issue does this word an injustice without proper context. It's kind of dismissive. So at the end of the day, do we need data centers? Yes, I think we do. The nature of technological advancement dictates that we need that. But I would like to point out that in the last 15 years, these so-called technology companies that have promised us conveniences and community and all of this stuff have done nothing but increased depression rates among teenagers and adults. They've done nothing but create isolation and division among people. So, do we need technological advancement? Yes. But do we need that kind of technological advancement? No. This type of thing does not belong in residential settings. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Castle Rock Township, Nancy Arsted. Tonight's talk, contrasting leadership and bloodbaths. If you have been paying attention across Minnesota, cities and lawmakers are slowing this data center industry down, asking harder questions and showing more caution. The chamber speaker who spoke earlier has made his support for Farmington's data center clear, but there is nothing visionary or respectable about backing a project that places the burden on the very people that now unfortunately live next to it. That is power protecting power. While using us, we bear the consequences. Stepping on some for the benefit of others is not just morally wrong, it is more failed leadership. He has the privilege of not living on Bering Avenue. In Egan, the City Council passed a one-year moratorium on new data centers. In Apple Valley, the City Council just denied a major proposed data center project. Monticello moved to make projects go through a formal land use process instead of sliding through using outdated codes. These cities choose caution, Farmington chose speed. You rushed this project through with Tract sending your staff anticipated schedules, and you shoved it between our homes while ignoring the residents standing right in front of you begging you to slow down. That is the contrast. While other cities are pumping the brakes, you still have data centers sitting on the permitted use list right next to daycares and health clubs. That is the contrast. Right now in this legislative session, Minnesota lawmakers are trying to change things. One bill would create a moratorium on new data centers. Another would require at least 2 public hearings before approving data center rezones. One would ban local governments from signing these NDAs that keep the public in the dark, like us. Another would require data centers to get their own water use permit instead of piggybacking off city water like you are allowing Tract to do. If your process was so proper and defensible, then why is there a push for more hearings, disclosure, more limits on NDAs, more water oversight, and moratoriums? Is it the belief that you and your staff are smarter and more enlightened than these city leaders around us, and the lawmakers who are pushing for fairness and transparency? There is the contrasting leadership. Is there any other city in the 5-state region forcing a data center this large, this close to established residential homes? No, just you and Tract. Sometimes I lay awake at night and wonder whether you are truly proud of yourselves and your legacy. Is your staff proud of how they've handled themselves? Is Tract proud? The CEO, Kristen and Philip, are they proud of how this project looks, pressed up against people's homes like it is? Do other developers envy them, or do they look down on them a little when they see that map? Is Tract proud of how quickly they helped you move along the rezoning and approval? Sadly, I think yes. I think all of you are very proud when you talk amongst yourselves. Now Tract has started work on the land. You have released the lion into the arena of the Coliseum. You will be entertained. You will see us suffer. Unfortunately, once the lion is done with us, he's going to turn, and he's going to jump up into the stands, and he's going to take out way more people than you ever expected. You may or may not be safe up there on your thrones. Do not extend the plat for Tract in May. Amend the PUD. Vote in a moratorium. Fix your codes. Show us you are human. The coalition is hosting a town hall on Tuesday, April 28th, 6:30 p.m. at the Farmington Public Library. Speakers Janelle Kuzna and Vita Kanitz, residents of Elko New Market, will share what happened to their wells and water after a large water user, Niagara, came to town. It is open to the public. Anyone is welcome. Please come and learn. Thank you.
My name is Terry Pearson, 2475 225th Street West, Castle Rock. I have a children's story to share with you tonight. It's called Water, Water Everywhere. Water makes so many things the steamy song kettle sings. It makes rivers and seas and lets us skate in winter's freeze. It makes frost, icicles, and snow, and give the boats place to go. It makes a place for us to swim and bathe our little babies in. It makes a fountain, sometimes tears, and gets us clean behind our ears. It makes steam that runs our trains. It feeds the flowers when it rains. It sparkles grass with shiny dew, and water puts out fires too. Just the perfect stuff for fishes, going wading, washing dishes. It cleans our clothes. And my, just think, water's lovely just to drink. The copyright on this is 1953. So for 73 years, water is still an important issue. And I urge you to prioritize humans and the environment over data centers, because how well we live tomorrow depends on our decisions today.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak this evening. I am Denise May. I'm at 22265 Bering Avenue. In less than 1 month, it will be 2 years since the public found out that the former Fountain Valley Golf Course had been sold pending rezoning and approvals for the development of a technology park, a hyperscale data center. We've known for about 2 years. You have known for much longer because of NDAs. Why do you think the developer wanted you to sign NDAs? They say it's so that competitors won't know what they are up to. But that strategy has proven that their project had significant progress toward approval before the public realized what was going on, and can have a voice. Voices you claim you want to hear. Voices you say help make your decisions. I'm not going to talk about all the facts. Many people at this podium have given you those facts many, many times over the past 2 years. You all know, about all the unbelievable amount of water that will be needed. You know our private wells will be affected. What about the city's water supply? You usually restrict lawn watering in the summer. You know about the construction noise we will endure for years. You know about the 24/7 constant noise we will endure after construction stops. You know about the light pollution. You know we will lose property value. You know about what has happened and is happening in other parts of the country. But yet knowing all of this has not made a difference to those of you on that side of the podium. What makes you think the problems and issues happening to other communities will not happen to Farmington? Let's not be naive. The problems and lawsuits will happen, just as they are right now in other parts of the country. After the developer is gone, the problems and lawsuits will be yours. You will be responsible, and you will have the headaches, not the developers. Look at what is happening right now in Elko New Market. It is not too late for you to change your mind. There is a reason why there is now a temporary moratorium against hyperscale data centers in Egan. There are bills being introduced at our state legislature trying to do the same. Why? Developers are coming into Minnesota at a fast pace. There needs to be time for more study, to allow more time to determine the real impact of hyperscale data centers and decide what legislation would be needed to protect our natural resources and the residents of Minnesota. You care about people. That is why you are serving the Farmington community. But you care about all people, even the ones just beyond your borders, like me. I live in Castle Rock Township. I share a property line with a developer. Any decisions you make for your official residents affect my neighborhood too. A neighborhood that supports Farmington in many ways. For many, many months, I have thought about two things that you said to us. First, we were told if we don't like what's happening, move. The second thing, you say you make decisions based on what's best for the greater good of Farmington. I have heard you say that many times while saying you know there will be losers. Those losers are Farmington residents and those just beyond your borders. Think about your family for a moment. Would you decide to do something you think best for your family, knowing it will cause one of your children to suffer? Of course not. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Mark Pearson from Castle Rock Township. Data center proposals are moving ahead quickly in Minnesota with over 20 potential sites across the state. If all of them are built, it would overwhelm our electrical grid and strain our groundwater. The ratepayer protections passed last legislative session have not been implemented yet at the Public Utilities Commission, and water permitting and environmental review changes have yet to be adopted. Put simply, the proposals are moving faster than communities and the state can respond. The legislature should put a moratorium in place on new data center permitting and construction until protections for electricity, water use, siting, and environmental review are in place. We're working very hard at that at the state level, and the city of Farmington should do the same thing. Stop it now before it becomes impossible to stop. I will quote one of my favorite TV characters right now. Commander Spock said one of the tenets of the Federation of Planets is that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. In that case, I believe that's the tack you've taken. It's not true because we don't need a data center. We need clean air, we need clean water, and we need quiet airwaves. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Kiefer, and I never really wanted to talk in front of people, but I live on Castle Rock, Albatross Circle, and my neighborhood is concerned about their wells. And they think it's a lost cause. Farmington doesn't care. What happens when my well dries up? What happens when my well water is no good? Do I need to spend $30,000 to dig a deeper one? Will Farmington bring me water if they have any left? And I know you can't answer my questions right here, but we have a lot of questions about, is there an environmental impact study? Do we even know what's going to happen? Have the proper studies been done? And I just hope that you would think about that.
Thank you.
Jeff Schottler, Executive Estates Neighborhood, Farmington. I wrote a speech, but I won't read it. I'll email it to you for. I had an interview with you guys earlier, and one of you expressed your concerns about how you felt about how I talked, and that you were maybe insulted. I want you to think about that for a little bit. Think of how insulted I am, or maybe just how stupid I am. Was I so dumb to believe in residential? Was I dumb to buy in a residential neighborhood in Farmington and not to expect to have the heaviest industrial thing that ever came to Farmington be placed next door to me? Am I that stupid? Was that a mistake that I made? What did we do wrong? What did all these people do wrong buying in residential? I didn't buy in residential on the corner of I-35. I bought in residential, surrounded by residential. What gives you the right to come in and impact us for some economic development? Are we tools and pawns? Is that all it is? For us to believe in the words that are written in the comp plan and to believe the words that come out of you guys is hard. It gets harder every day because nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. It's almost 2 years into it. Tract. Kristen. Philip, you here? Hey, Graham. They're not here. It's 2 years straight. We're here every other chance there is, asking for something to change. Have you even asked them? Have you said, hey, we need 500 feet, we need 1,000 feet, we need generators, we need power put off site? Because we're not going to do it to our people. We're not going to subject them to that noise and that dust and that glare. Do you understand? And I know you've driven by, I sure hope you have. I think I've asked you 15 times. Drive by Meta again at night. And find a place in your neighborhoods for those lights, for the generators, for the fuel storage, for the employee parking, for the routes in and out for the semis, for the material staging, for the cranes, for the transmission center. Remember, keep that one 50 feet from your house because that's what you're doing over there. It's a residential area. How does any resident in Farmington believe a comp plan or believe zoning or want to follow your rules when you don't follow your own rules? This is residential. What you're putting next to it is the largest and heaviest deviation or separation from residential that Farmington has ever seen. Show me another place in Dakota County where they have removed the residential zoning when surrounded by residential and put anything remotely close to this size there. Bring up an example and show it. Do you think that the Coke refinery was a neighborhood? That's the next biggest thing to us. Meta is small compared to this. Do you think the Coke refinery popped up in a neighborhood that they rezoned residential? Did they rezone Meta's land residential? Did Cannon Falls have to rezone residential land to make it fit? You ever hear the phrase, if the shoe doesn't fit, you don't wear it? Any of you ever heard that? This doesn't fit there. Whether you can get them to accommodate it to a size that fits and give some guarantees. What do you really know? How much water are they going to take? Can any of you pull out a piece of paper and say, this is how much water they're using? Does that paper exist? Anybody? Did they give you a total of how much water they'll use? Or did they just say up to 2.93 million gallons of water a day? But we're not going to tell you how much. Anybody know? We got a nod, yes or no? Anybody here can even nod? No? Broken necks. You see what I'm saying? How are we supposed to respect you guys? You don't answer simple questions like that. How are we supposed to listen to you and trust your words? And how are we supposed to listen, trust the process? Give us time, we'll work on it. You don't work on water usage and limits and placement of sound in buildings and lights after an approval. You do it ahead of time. You guys wouldn't let me buy a lot and say I'm gonna buy a house without seeing some ideas of what we're doing. Why doesn't that pertain to them? We're not tools and we're not pawns, and the only thing in this city isn't about economic development. It's about people. You don't need economic developers. You don't need chambers of commerce. You don't need city councils if there aren't people. Remember to respect your people. That's what we're here for. We're coming every other week. We've been here every other week. I was here today. I was here tonight. Be here the next time you have a meeting. Be here this fall if I have to be, along with the rest of these people. We have rights too, and you're infringing on them. And it seems to be recklessly and without care. So I don't know how you can expect my words not to be offensive when you're physically threatening the health of my family, our abilities to enjoy our residential property, people's water sources. How do you expect me to be respectful with that?
Thank you, Jeff.
Council, my name is Dove Mitchell. I live in Executive Estates at 22280 Cameron Way. And I wasn't expecting to come here. I work as a teacher, and then my son was supposed to have his first baseball game, and it was canceled due to weather. So I got the opportunity, even though I am part of a group that does discuss this. So I was just hastily putting together some of my thoughts as I went through, and I was sitting on the couch watching Sheriff Country and enjoying it and realizing, oh, there's a meeting. I'm going to speak because I've been taught in my family that to speak means, or to not speak means you're complicit, and that is not something I wish to be. I did hear about how much more the Arbor Day gets than the residents of Farmington. Now, I moved here from Egan in 2019. I still have many ties to Egan. However, I do know that they do not want more data centers, and that it is not put within residential areas, and if it was near your home, you would also not want it there. If you're looking about growing Farmington, my daughter actually goes to St. Olaf, and she wrote a paper on how to help Farmington, and the need for grocery stores was mentioned. I know that's probably come up many times. However, her idea was in a co-op, and she put together how that could come about. To create revenue and things that the Farmington residents actually need instead of going into Rosemont, Lakeville, or Northfield for our groceries. I think about my animal who is very sensitive to noise, myself. I got a lot that actually has a preserve behind it, and then you have the row of homes and then the golf course. And I think of the effect on that land and the different people around me. And I also know as a teacher who works with middle and high schoolers that I make a lot of mistakes. And I have to admit those mistakes all the time. You know, and how to get made fun of very easily. It's very, you know, very nice to do that sometimes. But I wish that you guys could look at it and think about it and say, hey, I've made a mistake. Maybe we need to come revisit this. Maybe talk to us, come into our neighborhood. I didn't know you guys were at the egg hunt. Actually, my house is right there. My kids are, I have a senior in high school and then a college student. So they're past the age of finding the Easter eggs. unless there's money involved. Truth. I am also a member of my school board, and we have to make hard decisions all the time. We make them in staffing, in budgets, and all of those things. And so, but one thing we never do is we never say, well, it will benefit these students and not these, so let's do it. We are always coming up with a solution that's going to benefit every student in our community, no matter what. And so that is what I am hoping that you guys can come together and reconsider to do, is to find a solution, something that we can all come together on and agree on that will benefit everyone in this room. And my boss always says, don't just say no to an idea, but give another one or come together to find another solution. So I am willing to work with anyone on another solution. I'm, you know, of average intelligence. I did make it through college and got my master's, but that took me a long road. And so I am willing to come together with residents and whoever is willing to work, but know that I will fight for my family, my home, my other neighbors, and what's best for all of the Farmington residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Ryan, live in Executive Estates. I've been coming for the last 2 years, and all of these people say, when are you going to speak? And I just keep saying, you guys are doing great. This is not my forte, but a quote I live by and a quote that I really think is something you need to hear came from Maya Angelou, and she says, do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. I think when you started learning about this project, you did do the best you could. You thought you were given the proper information. You thought you had all of the facts. Clearly, in the last 2 years, that is not the case. And all we are asking for at this point is, you know better now, please do better. Thank you.
Thank you.